Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reading the 14th Goldfish, Chapter 9, Fruit. Raj is waiting at the curb. His eyes are fixed on the cars driving up and down the street. My grandfather stomps over to him, digging in his backpack. It's my old one from elementary school. It has kittens on it. I thought it was a little uncool for him, but he told me it was a perfectly good backpack, and he didn't care what people might think. You! My grandfather shouts. Raj turns and watches us. His eyes flicker to me briefly before returning to my grandfather. My grandfather pulls out the papers and shoves them into Raj's hands. Freedom and weep, he says. Raj scans them. Then he looks up. Most of these were published over 30 years ago. My grandfather is stunned into a momentary silence, then says, Einstein published a long time ago, too. Are you gonna pooh him? You're being a little ridiculous, Raj says. A compact car pulls up at the curb, a teenager behind the wheel. He has the same dark eyes as Raj, but looks a few years older. Raj folds his tall frame into the front seat. It's ridiculous, huh? My grandfather sputters. What do you know anyway? You're just a kid. Raj leans out the open window, gives my grandfather a slow look. I don't know. You're a kid too. He pauses. What do you know? When we get home, my grandfather heads straight for the kitchen. I'm starving, he says. I'll heat up some burritos, I say. There's probably not a more perfect combination than rice, refried beans, and cheese. He makes himself a cup of hot tea to go with his burrito. He pours the steaming water into the mug with precision, adds 2 perfect spoonfuls of sugar, and methodically stirs the sugar like he's making a formula. It makes me think of the mad scientist conversation. I liked what you talked about at lunch, I confess, about science. But how do you start? He looks up from his tea. What do you mean? In a puzzle, I always begin with a straight edge piece. If you want to cure polio or anything, where would you even start? With your eyes, of course, he says. Eyes? He looks at the bowl of fruit on the counter. For example, that bowl of fruit. What do you see? He asks. It's a battered wooden bowl. There are a few apples, a banana, some pears, and a mango. I'm pretty sure my mom got the mango on sale because she doesn't usually buy them otherwise. A bowl of fruit, I say. Is the fruit alive or dead? He probs. I look at it more closely. The apples are red and shiny, and the apples doesn't have any, and the bananas doesn't have any bruises. Alive. He picks up an apple, turning it. Is it, though? Is it attached to a root system? Is it ingesting nutrients, water? Those are all signs of life. I guess not, I say. He waves the apple at me. It actually begins dying the minute you pick it. Then he goes to the counter and takes a knife from the butcher block. He slices into the apple, exposing a neat row of dark brown seeds. Now, he says, touching them with the tip of his knife. What about these? Dead, I guess. This is trickier. They're dormant, waiting. Bury them in soil, give them water and sunlight, and they'll grow. In a way, they're immortal, and they were inside the apple all along. I'm kind of blown away. I thought science was all experiments in laboratories, I admit. My father shakes his head. The most powerful tool of the scientist is observation. Galileo, the father of modern science, observed that Jupiter has moons orbiting it, proving that the Earth was not the center of everything. His observations forced people to think differently about their place in the universe. Then he looks around and says, "But now that you've mentioned it, I am going to need a laboratory." For what? "For analyzing T-Mel Venus when we get it back, of course," he says, like it's obvious. "I need to replicate my result if I'm gonna publish it." I think for a minute. Our house isn't exactly huge. "What about the garage?" I suggest. We go out to the garage and my grandfather does a slow tour. Our one half is clear for my mom's car, but the other side is stacked with boxes of props from her shows over the years. There's an old workbench. That was my dad's. Our bikes and a freezer. My mom likes to stock up on frozen food because she goes into production on a show. My grandfather rubs a non-existent beard on his chin. Electricity, decent lighting. It's not climate controlled, but it could be worse. At least I'm not in the desert like Oppenheimer. I just look at him. Robert Oppenheimer, World War II? We haven't gotten that far in history, I explain. We're still at ancient Greece. Robert Oppenheimer was a brilliant physicist. He ran the Manhattan Project, which developed the atomic bomb. Oppenheimer tested the atomic bomb in the middle of a desert in New Mexico. Wow, I say. He looks around. "Well, no time like the present. Let's get this place organized." My grandfather wants to set up the lab around the main electricity outlets. That means shifting all the prop boxes out of the way. It takes us the better part of 2 hours to move everything. There's a box of clip lights here, and he arranges them around the workbench. The garage door suddenly rolls open, and my mother's car's there, but she can't pull into the garage because of all the boxes. She kills the engine and walks into the garage. "What are you doing?" she demands. "We're setting up a lab," I tell her. "Here in the garage? So I can continue my research," my grandfather explains. "Where am I supposed to park my car?" she asks. "Outside," I suggest. "I don't think so," she says. My grandfather stares at her. "You're standing in the way of scientific discovery." "I'm standing in the way of birds pooping on my car." It takes the rest of the afternoon to put everything back. Bye guys, thank you for watching my video. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you guys in a new chapter. Bye.